Her name is Claire. She had to leave town for 2 nights for work and asked me to house sit. It was a quiet suburban area, the kind where nothing really happens. Clean streets, spaced out houses, no weird neighbors. It felt safe. The first night was normal. I locked the doors, checked the windows, watched some TV, and went to sleep around midnight. Nothing unusual. It was the second night when things started to feel off. Around 1:30 a.m., I woke up to a sound. Not loud, just subtle, like something lightly tapping wood. I stayed still listening. It came again. Tap, tap, tap. At first I thought it was coming from outside. Maybe a branch hitting the window. But the sound wasn't near the windows. It felt deeper inside the house, like somewhere down the hallway. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight. The hallway outside my room was completely dark. Claire's house had this long corridor leading to the kitchen, and standing at the end of it, everything just looked wrong. Too quiet. I stepped out slowly, trying not to make noise. The tapping had stopped. "Hello," I said quietly. No answer. I checked the front door. Locked. Back door. Locked. Windows. All shut. I even checked the garage door from inside. Nothing. I told myself it was just the house settling. Old wood, temperature changes. That kind of thing. I went back to bed. But maybe 10 minutes later I heard something else. This time it wasn't tapping. It was footsteps. Very slow, deliberate footsteps. Not loud enough to sound like someone walking normally. More like someone trying not to be heard. At that point my chest tightened. I sat up in bed, heart pounding, trying to convince myself I was imagining it. But then I heard again. Step, pause, step. Coming from the kitchen area. I grabbed a kitchen knife I had brought into the room earlier, just in case, and stood near the door listening. Then it stopped. Completely. Silence. I waited for maybe 2 full minutes. Nothing. I opened the door quickly and stepped into the hallway, shining my light toward the kitchen. Empty. But something didn't feel right. The fridge door was slightly open. I was 100% sure I had closed it earlier. My stomach dropped. I walked toward it slowly, every step feeling heavier. The closer I got, the colder it felt. I don't know how to explain that part, but it's something I'll never forget. I pushed the fridge door shut, and right then, I heard something behind me. A soft exhale, like someone breathing out quietly. I froze. It was close. Too close. I turned around fast, shining my light everywhere. Nothing. Just the hallway. Empty. Silent. But now I knew. I wasn't alone in that house. I didn't sleep after that. I locked myself inside Claire's bedroom and pushed a dresser against the door. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely type. I texted Claire, but she was asleep in another state. No reply. I considered calling the police, but I kept thinking, what if I'm wrong? What if they come and find nothing? But deep down I already knew I wasn't wrong. Around 3:10 a.m., I heard it again. This time it was right outside the door. A faint scratching sound. Not aggressive. Not loud. Just slow, steady scratching. Like fingernails dragging lightly across wood. I held my breath. Then it stopped. And after a few seconds I heard something that made my blood run cold. A whisper. Very quiet. Almost like it was right against the door. "I know you're in there." I felt my entire body go numb. The voice was low, uneven. Not someone I recognized. Not Claire. Not anyone I knew. I didn't respond. I didn't move. I just stood there gripping the knife, staring at the door. A minute passed. Then 2. Nothing. No footsteps. No sounds. Just silence again. At that point I knew I had to call the police. I dialed 911 and tried to keep my voice steady. I told them someone was inside the house. They said officers were on the way. Those next 10 minutes felt like hours. And then, I heard movement again. This time it wasn't careful. It was fast. Footsteps running down the hallway. Then a loud crash from the kitchen. Then silence. Complete silence. When the police finally arrived, they cleared the house. At first they didn't find anyone. I felt stupid for a moment. Like maybe I really had imagined everything. But then one of the officers called out from the garage. They had found the door slightly open, and behind some storage boxes, There was a small crawl space. Inside it, they found something that still makes me sick to think about. A blanket, empty food containers, and a phone charger plugged into the wall. Someone had been living there, watching, waiting. The officer told me it didn't look like they had just arrived that night. It looked like they had been there for days, maybe longer. The scariest part? There were marks on the inside of the crawlspace wall. Tallies, dozens of them, like someone was counting days. They never found who it was. No fingerprints, no camera footage, nothing, just gone. I stayed in a hotel that night and left the next morning. Claire ended up moving out a week later. I still think about that whisper sometimes. I know you're in there. And the worst part is, I think they knew I was alone the whole time. And this happened in late October in a quiet suburb outside Portland. I had just moved into a small rental house after a breakup. It was the kind of place you'd call peaceful during the day and unsettling at night. The first thing I noticed was the smell. It wasn't strong, just off, like damp fabric or something stale. I assumed it was because the house had been empty for a while. I cleaned open windows, sprayed air freshener. It helped a little, but never fully went away. A few days later, small things started happening. I'd leave kitchen cabinets closed and come back to find one slightly open. Not wide, just enough to notice. At first I blamed myself. Maybe I was distracted. Maybe I didn't shut them properly. Then it was the bathroom light. I clearly remember turning it off before going to bed. But twice I woke up around 3 a.m. and saw a faint glow under the door. The second time I actually got up, heart pounding, and opened it. The light was on. I stood there for a good minute trying to make sense of it. No one else had a key. The doors were locked, windows shut. I even checked the entire house. Nothing. That's when the fear started settling in. Still, I tried to stay logical. Until the food incident. I bought a loaf of bread, unopened, and left it on the counter. The next morning, the plastic tie was loose. 2 slices were missing. I lived alone. I remember standing there staring at that bread like it was going to explain itself. My chest felt tight. I checked every room again. Closets under the bed, even the crawl space access and the hallway ceiling. Locked, or at least I thought it was. That night I barely slept. Every sound felt amplified. The ticking clock, the hum of the fridge, even the house settling made me jump. Around 2:40 a.m., I heard it, a soft dragging noise. Above me, I froze. It came from the ceiling. Slow, careful, like someone shifting their weight, trying not to be heard. I held my breath, listening. Another sound, a faint creak. Something, or someone was in the attic. My mind raced. I grabbed my phone, ready to call the police, but I hesitated. What if it was just an animal? A raccoon, maybe? But animals don't open bread bags. The noise stopped suddenly. Too suddenly. As if whatever was up there knew I was listening. I didn't sleep at all after that. I kept the lights on, sitting on the couch, staring at the ceiling. Morning couldn't come fast enough. The next day I called my landlord, a guy named Curtis Hale. I told him everything, trying not to sound insane. He laughed it off at first, said older houses make noises, maybe squirrels got in. But I insisted he come check. He arrived that afternoon with a ladder. We stood in the hallway staring up at the attic hatch. My stomach felt like it was twisting itself. Probably nothing, he said, forcing a smile. He pushed the hatch open, and that's when everything changed. As soon as the hatch opened, that smell hit us. Stronger this time. Thick, rotten. Curtis covered his nose. Yeah, something definitely died up there. I wanted to believe that. I really did. He climbed up first, shining his flashlight into the darkness. For a moment there was silence. Then he froze. I could see in the way his body went stiff. What is it? I asked, my voice barely steady. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he slowly turned his head down toward me and said very quietly, "Aaron, you need to step outside. Now." My heart dropped. What did you see? Just go. That tone. It wasn't casual anymore. It was serious, urgent. I backed away, grabbed my keys, and stepped out onto the driveway. Every second felt heavier than the last. I kept looking at the house, half expecting someone to appear at the window. A few minutes later, Curtis came down. His face was pale. He locked the front door behind him and immediately called the police. That's when I knew this wasn't some animal. When the officers arrived, they went in with Curtis. I stayed outside, my hands shaking, trying to piece everything together. After about 10 minutes, one of them came out. "Sir," he said, "we're going to need you to confirm a few things." My throat felt dry. "What's going on?" "There's evidence someone's been staying in your attic." The words didn't even feel real. "Staying?" I repeated. He nodded. "There's a makeshift sleeping area. Food wrappers, bottles, and other items." A cold wave ran through my entire body. "How long?" I asked. He looked back at the house. "Hard to say, but not just a day or two." My legs felt weak. Everything suddenly made sense. The smell, the missing bread, the sounds at night. Someone had been living above me, watching me the entire time. Is anyone up there now?" I asked. The officer hesitated. "We didn't find anyone, but there's a secondary exit through the back vent. They could have left at any time. That somehow made it worse. They weren't caught. They could have been there while I slept, while I showered, while I sat just a few feet below them, completely unaware." Later they show me photos. I wish they hadn't. There was a thin mattress made of old blankets, empty food cans, a small flashlight, and something else, something that made my stomach turn. A collection of my things. A fork from my kitchen, a sock, even a photo I kept in the living room. They had been coming down, moving around my house while I was there, watching me. The police told me cases like this are rare, but not unheard of. People secretly living inside walls, attics, even crawl spaces. They called it frogging. I moved out that same night. Didn't pack much. Just left. To this day, they never found whoever it was. Sometimes I still think about those nights. About how close they were. About how I never heard them. Until I did. And the worst part, there was one night before I knew anything, when I woke up and felt like someone was standing in my room. I told myself it was just a nightmare. Now I'm not so sure.